You're lying in bed after a long day, replaying a conversation that no one else would even notice. The way she paused before answering, the slight change in tone, the look in her eyes that lasted half a second too long. Your chest feels tight, not because something was said, but because something was felt, and now you're wondering if you imagined it. You didn't. There's a reason you sense what others miss. There is a reason you feel exhausted in rooms that seem normal to everyone else. And there is a reason you've been called too sensitive, more times than you can count. Today I'm going to explain what most people misunderstand about you. Later, I'll show you why this sensitivity becomes dangerous when you ignore boundaries. And I'll also reveal why the very trait that drains you can become your greatest strength. But first, we need to talk about silence, because if you are a genuine empath, silence is not empty to you. Silence is loud. You feel it. You analyze it. When someone pulls back, when a message goes unanswered, when energy shifts, your mind starts working overtime. You search for meaning. You search for what you did wrong. You search for what changed. Silence feels hard because you don't just hear it. You interpret it, and that is exactly why silence is powerful. When you choose no contact with someone who has drained you, it feels unnatural. Your instinct is to check in, to make sure they are okay, to smooth over tension, to repair what might not even be broken. You are wired to connect. But connection without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. Let that sit with you. Connection without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. When you break contact with someone who hurt you, your nervous system reacts. You feel restless. You question your decision. You imagine them struggling. You feel responsible for their emotions even when they were careless with yours. This is not weakness. This is empathy without structure. Silence is hard because you are used to being the emotional bridge. You are used to filling gaps. You are used to reaching out first. So when you stop, it feels like you are doing something wrong. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back. Now let's talk about chasing. Chasing feels like loyalty. It feels like devotion. It feels like love. But chasing lowers your position in ways you don't see immediately. When you are always the one reaching out, apologizing, fixing, checking in, you slowly teach people that your energy is guaranteed. You teach them that no matter how distant they become, you will close the gap. And people rarely value what feels guaranteed. This is where many empaths struggle. You think your consistency proves your depth, and it does. But when the consistency is not reciprocated, it becomes imbalance. You start overgiving, you start overthinking, you start overextending. And then you wonder why you feel empty. You are not too much. You are just unprotected. That is the truth most people won't tell you. You are not dramatic for noticing subtle shifts. You are not crazy for sensing tension. You are not weak for feeling deeply. But if you do not build boundaries around your empathy, the world will treat your depth as a resource to consume. This is where silence becomes your teacher. When you stop chasing, you create space to observe. You see who reaches back. You see who respects distance. You see who only connects when you initiate. Silence reveals patterns. And patterns tell the truth. You may be afraid that if you stop reaching out, the connection will disappear. But ask yourself this: if the connection only survives because you are carrying it, was it ever balanced? Chasing lowers your position because it shifts you from equal partner to emotional pursuer. And pursuit, when it is one-sided, creates power imbalance. Healthy love does not require you to prove your worth repeatedly. As an empath, you have likely been told that your sensitivity is your flaw, that you care too much, that you think too much, that you feel too deeply. But what if the issue was never your depth? What if the issue was where you were placing it? Later, we will talk about the 7 strange habits you have that actually reveal your emotional intelligence. Some of them may surprise you. And we will also talk about how to protect your energy without hardening your heart. For now, understand this: silence is not rejection. Silence is information. When you choose no contact after being hurt, you are not being cold. You are creating clarity. You are allowing behavior to speak louder than promises. You are stepping out of the role of fixer and into the role of observer. And that shift changes everything. You do not need to chase people to keep them. You do not need to shrink your sensitivity to be loved. You do not need to explain your boundaries to those who benefited from you having none. Your empathy is powerful, but only when it is paired with self-respect. If you feel drained lately, if you feel misunderstood, if you feel like you are always the one giving more, this is not random. It is a signal that your empathy needs structure. And as we continue, we're going to uncover the specific behaviors that make you think you're weird, and why those behaviors are actually signs of something rare and valuable. The psychology of stepping back is deeper than you think. When you withdraw your energy, you interrupt a pattern that has been running quietly in the background. Every relationship forms a rhythm. Who initiates, who reassures, who repairs, who chases. Over time, that rhythm becomes expected, and expectation creates comfort. When you suddenly stop reaching out, you break the rhythm. And when the rhythm breaks, awareness begins. At first, the other person may not react strongly. They may assume you are busy. They may assume you will return to your usual pattern. But when your silence remains steady, something shifts in their mind. They start noticing the absence. They notice the quiet where your messages used to be. They notice the lack of emotional reassurance. They notice that the emotional labor they relied on is no longer available. And that is when uncertainty enters. Uncertainty is uncomfortable for people who depend on your consistency. When you are chasing, you are predictable. When you are silent, you become unknown. Silence is not rejection. Silence is information. It tells them that access is no longer guaranteed. It tells them that you are capable of stepping back. It tells them that your energy is not automatic. For someone who became used to you bridging every gap, this creates tension. They may begin to question whether they misjudged you. They may test the connection. They may reach out casually. Or they may pretend not to care at all. But internally, the shift is real. Because when you stop chasing, you stop feeding the imbalance. Now let's come back to you. Stepping back sounds powerful in theory. In practice, it can feel unbearable. Your mind will try to convince you that silence is wrong, that you are being cold, that you are losing something valuable. The urge to text can feel urgent. It can feel like something bad will happen if you don't act. This is your nervous system reacting to distance. As an empath, you are wired to close emotional gaps quickly. You sense tension and want to resolve it. You feel distance and want to repair it. So when you choose not to act, your body feels unsettled. You need structure in these moments. First, delay every emotional impulse. If you feel the urge to text, set a 24-hour rule. No message gets sent in the heat of emotion. This pause alone will prevent most regret. Second, redirect physically. Move your body. Go for a walk. Clean something. Stretch. Physical movement regulates emotional intensity. Sitting still with anxiety amplifies it. Third, write instead of sending. Open your notes and say everything you want to say. Do not censor yourself. Let it out fully. Then close it. You gave your emotions expression without lowering your position. Because chasing lowers your position. When you text out of anxiety, you temporarily soothe yourself. But you reinforce the old dynamic. You teach them that distance will always trigger you to reconnect. Silence is not rejection. Silence is information. Each time you resist the urge to chase, you rebuild self-trust. You prove to yourself that you can tolerate discomfort without abandoning your boundaries. And that builds strength. Now let's talk about what you should focus on daily instead of chasing. Your energy needs a new direction. Wake up with intention. Even small structure matters. Make your bed. Drink water. Move your body. These are grounding acts. They remind you that you are responsible for your stability, not someone else's response. Protect your mental input. Limit checking their social media. Stop analyzing their online activity. You do not need more data. You need peace. Reconnect with safe people, not to gossip or obsess, but to experience balanced connection. Healthy relationships feel calm, not chaotic. Journal daily. Ask yourself honest questions. Where did I overextend? Where did I ignore my intuition? Where did I prioritize connection over self-respect? This is not self-blame. This is growth. Strengthen your boundaries internally. Define what respect looks like. Define what you will not tolerate again. When standards are clear, chasing loses appeal. You are not too much. You are just unprotected. So protect yourself differently now. Silence is not rejection. Silence is information. It reveals who notices your absence. It reveals who values your presence. It reveals whether the connection was mutual or maintained by your effort alone. And here is something important. When you step back, you also begin to see clearly. The emotional fog lifts. You start recognizing how much work you were doing to sustain something that felt fragile. You notice how often you were anticipating moods. You see how much of your mental energy was spent monitoring the relationship. Clarity can feel painful, but it is freeing. You are not stepping back to punish anyone. You are stepping back to observe without interference. And as you hold that space, patterns become obvious. We still need to talk about the 7 strange habits that make you question yourself. The overanalyzing, the emotional absorption, the need for solitude after social interaction. These traits are not weaknesses, but without boundaries, they exhaust you. As we move forward, we're going to unpack those behaviors one by one, and you will start to see yourself not as too sensitive, but as deeply perceptive. But before that, stay steady in this phase. Because the moment you stop chasing is the moment your empathy begins to work for you instead of against you. Now we come to the part that tests everything you've learned. What happens if they come back? because sometimes they do. Not always dramatically. Sometimes it's subtle, a casual message, a reaction to your story. Hey, how have you been? As if nothing ever shifted. When that happens, your body will react before your mind does. Your heart may soften, your hope may rise. You may feel the old pull to reconnect quickly, to restore what feels familiar. Slow down. If they come back, you do not rush. You do not reward their return with instant access to your emotions. You do not reopen the door fully just because they knocked. You control the pace now. Respond calmly. Briefly observe more than you speak. Let consistency unfold over time. Anyone can say the right words in a moment of discomfort. Real change shows up in patterns. Boundaries are not punishment, they are protection. If they truly value you, they will respect your pace. If they become impatient, defensive, or dismissive of your boundaries, that is information. Silence is not rejection. Silence is information. When you step back, you created clarity. Now that clarity must guide your decisions. Ask yourself simple questions. Are they taking responsibility without blaming you? Are they showing consistent effort without being prompted? Are they respecting your emotional space? If the answer is no, do not negotiate your standards. You are not here to train someone to treat you properly. You are here to observe whether they already can. You are not too much. You are just unprotected. And this time you protect yourself differently. Move slowly. Let actions speak. Let time test sincerity. Do not confuse intensity with commitment. Do not confuse apologies with transformation. Now let's talk about the other possibility. They don't come back. No message, no apology, no explanation. This is where many empaths feel the deepest wound. Because your mind starts searching for reasons, you replay memories. You question your worth. You wonder if you meant less than you thought. Pause. If they do not return when you stop chasing, that is not proof you are unlovable. It is proof that the connection depended on your effort. Silence reveals truth either way. If they valued you deeply, your absence would matter. If they were attached to your availability more than your presence, your silence exposes that. Closure does not always arrive through conversation. Sometimes closure is the clarity of behavior. If they don't come back, you do not chase for answers. You accept what their silence communicates. And you choose dignity. You grieve honestly. You allow sadness without shame. But you do not rewrite history to make it prettier than it was. You move forward quietly. You focus on rebuilding yourself, your routines, your interests, your friendships, your goals. You stop monitoring their life. You stop imagining scenarios. You redirect your energy into something that grows you instead of drains you. Silence is not rejection. Silence is information. It has shown you who reciprocates and who consumes. It has shown you whether the bond was mutual or maintained by your emotional labor. Let's summarize this clearly. When you stopped chasing, you broke the pattern. When you held silence, you created clarity. If they come back, you move slowly, hold boundaries, and let actions prove intention. If they don't, you accept the truth with dignity and move forward. You are not too much. You are just unprotected. And now you are choosing protection without losing your depth. Here is your one clear action step. For the next 30 days, practice intentional non-pursuit. No emotional chasing, no initiating contact to soothe anxiety. If they reach out, you respond calmly and briefly. If they do not, you invest that energy into strengthening yourself. Journal daily. Move your body. Limit digital monitoring. Protect your mental space. 30 days of discipline will teach you more about your strength than years of overgiving ever did. Because the goal is not to become cold. The goal is to become balanced. Your empty is a gift, but only when it is paired with boundaries. Only when it is guided by self-respect. Silence reveals truth either way. Stand steady in that truth. You do not need to beg to be understood. You do not need to shrink to be accepted. You do not need to chase to be chosen. You are not too much. You are just unprotected. And now you know how to protect yourself. If this message spoke to you, watch the next video where we break down the subtle signs you're absorbing emotions that were never yours to carry.